Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is CoachFury here today, and we are back with the latest episode of our Chicago Bulls Let's Play series of Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 21. And well, the main season has finished here in our second season as the Chicago Bulls GM, and well, to say that we've made good progress, I think is a bit of an understatement. If we dive straight into it, let's talk about where we are and what our expectations are come this playoffs. So we finished with a really good 53-29 record. We basically that meant, thankfully, that we managed to top our conference. So we are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, which is a huge step change from where we were last season, where we were the number eight seed. We'd scraped in at a 42-42 record, I believe. So we are 41-41 actually, but we were in a much better place this year. Number one seed. In terms of our team, I think it's been again a bit of an interesting reversal from last year, where we are a really good offensive team and we're not a very good defensive team. Whereas last year, it's probably fair to say that we were a good defensive team, but not a very good offensive team, which is really interesting considering we haven't changed too much in terms of personnel, apart from probably the backcourt. A lot of the front court is pretty much status quo, so it's interesting in that sense. But it does mean that we have home court advantage, we are the number one seed, and well, we are up against the Orlando Magic, and we'll talk a little bit about them in a minute. But let's just quickly have a little bit of a look at the rest of the playoff scene and see how that looks. So looking at the Eastern Conference, we've obviously got pretty much the same type of teams that were there last year. I think maybe the Wizards weren't there last year, if I remember right. But you got the Bucks, Hawks, Celtics, 76ers, and the Nets, and then the Wizards. So pretty much stayed status quo in terms of the Eastern Conference. It's fair to say that probably the Nets are probably our biggest threat, to be honest with you. No surprise, they are the number 2 seed. But the one I'm worried about is probably someone like the Hawks, because that Trae Young is just so insanely good in this Let's Play series. He puts up plus 30 points a game. So we'll need to keep an eye on that Bucks-Hawks series and see how that one plays out. The Bucks I'm a little bit less worried about because we have the front court, I feel, to match Giannis, who is obviously their best player. And I think we can nullify Middleton in that sense as well. But if we turn ourselves over to the Western Conference, again, not many changes really here. It's pretty much the same bunch of teams. Probably the only one that's different is I think the Spurs have replaced the Lakers that were here last year. And that is a surprise. I mean, the Lakers, I had a little look. I was interested to know why they kind of just didn't make the playoffs. And you can see here, they obviously had a better record than Memphis. But Memphis, I believe, when you look at the division, managed to sneak in because they managed to sort of obviously just manage to sneak in really. The Lakers not getting in that sense, I believe, due to some tiebreakers possibly or something at play there. So it's interesting that they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that is still a very good team on paper. I mean, they've still got the likes of Davis, and I think LeBron is still here. He's still a very good player. He's not as good as he was, but he's still a good player. So surprising they didn't make it. But that's the way it goes sometimes in these Let's Play series. You do sometimes get some surprising moves. I mean, the Spurs obviously have made a bit of a jump. So we'll probably see how they get on in the playoffs. They are a 5th seed. But we are up against the Orlando Magic, the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. And it's fair to say this is going to be a fairly interesting matchup, really. They've got an interesting team in the sense that they're clearly led by 2 guys. They're led on the offensive end by Nikola Vucevic, their dominant sort of centre who can't really defend. And then Oladipo, again, a really good guard, to be honest with you. I really like him as a player in this Let's Play. He can score from anywhere. His defense is okay. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. You can kind of live with that. But outside of that, you've got some interesting players in Isaac, who's developed into a pretty good player now. Just a good defensive small forward, to be perfectly honest with you. He could probably play a bit of power forward. And I imagine we'll probably have to keep an eye on him in this series. But when you look beyond that, and you look at the depth chart that they have, you've got DiVincenzo, who I think Peyton is better than. Okoro is the other one that's interesting because they're sort of playing a weird matchup in the sense that Isaac is playing small forward. He's bigger than Okoro, but Okoro is playing in at the front court position. So I think they tried to do that to try and balance off the likes of Vucevic against his lack of defense, and trying to do a bit of a dynamic sort of play through there. So that's going to be interesting in that sense, and clearly that's going to match up interesting against us because we do have really big front court. We're obviously playing heavy bigs in terms of the small forward and power forward and centre positions. So I think we've got a good matchup there, and I think that is what is going to probably win us this game. That combined with, I think, the fact that we're going to win the guard battle in terms of the point guard position. And in terms of other guys who are playing sizable minutes, Cole Anthony is playing a good chunk of minutes supporting the point guard position. And then they don't really have a lot outside of that. I mean, they've got Okeke, I think it is how you say it, Chuma Okeke, who's playing a bit of front court, but that's pretty much it. I mean, they've got some really interesting vets that they're not playing. I mean, Carter Williams, Jackson, Millsap, all these players who I think are actually probably better than some of the guys they are playing. But, you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. So in terms of their insights, what is this Magic team good at? They are clearly a very good defensive team. So this is a real offense versus defense type of matchup. They are a terrible three-point shooting team. As you can see here, they're ranked 28 out of 30 teams in the league for three-point shooting. So we're going to make sure we maximise that as much as we can. And it kind of fits nicely against our own defensive strategy, which is basically we'll just suck you into the paint. We'll let you hit threes. If you hit threes and beat us, we're pretty much normally content with that. So what's our strategy going to be like? Clearly, we're going to stay with passive. You know, we want to encourage more outside shots because they're not a good outside shooting team. I'm happy with everything else in terms of our offense. It works really well. Depth chart, I'm not going to change anything for this first game. I just want to see how it plays out. There is an argument possibly to play Trent Jr. some more minutes because he has just been our main outlet in terms of scoring this year. As you can probably see, he's our main sort of guy who makes the shot from deep if we need it. So there is an argument to be made to possibly give him some more minutes going forward. But I just want to see how this first game kind of plays out. Now on the defensive side, the only question I've got really is do I leave Jackson Jr. marking Vucevic, or do I put Carter Jr. there? And I honestly think that we'll leave Jackson Jr. there. He is the better defender, better on-ball defender, and I think that is how we're going to play this out. So let's see how we get on. As usual, guys, you all know the drill. I'll play through. If we get to crucial crunch games, we'll come back and we'll watch them live, and we'll join the action and see what happens. So, game 1 against the Orlando Magic. We are at home. Hopefully we can hold this home court, keep the home court advantage going, and make this series a nice, straightforward one. I'm touching wood all over here. I really hope so. We are the number 1 seed. We've got a bit of expectation to live up to this year. I'm hopeful that this could be a really good season for us in the playoffs. So let's dive in and have a go. So first game of the season in this playoff round 1, we managed to get the win. A nice 14-point win in the end. Clearly, points in the paint are our driving factor. 62 points in the paint. Jackson Jr. have a fantastic game against Vucevic, which is great. We held them to some pretty low shooting numbers. We turned the ball over a little bit too much, actually, for my liking. But I'm happy with how that's worked. We managed to go to the bench as well because we managed to take quite a nice little lead through the first half as well, which was good. So I'm very happy with that. Clark is clearly our main offensive threat, but it's nice to see that Jackson Jr. got involved with this as well. And you can see here that they didn't get into much foul trouble, but they just simply could not compete with us in this first game. So game 2, I don't think we have any injuries. So let's dive straight into game 2. And we managed to win a crushing victory, that one was. 85 to 113. We managed to hold home court, which is crucial. Jackson Jr. coming up with the goods there against Vucevic as well. Fantastic performance from him. 32 points. Only 4 rebounds though, which is surprising. I guess I would have expected a little bit more from him, but it looks like Carter Jr. has kind of done the job there. But I'll certainly take that. 32 points. Clark with 14. We were able to play most of the bench for significant minutes there. 64 points in the paint as well. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We are now 2-0 up. Let's go. Continue moving on. I'm not going to make any changes. They've got to try and match us. Let's go to game 3. We're on the road Can we get 3-0 up in this series? Oh, we can't. They managed to snag their first home game with a fairly good win actually for them. We didn't shoot anywhere near as well as we should have. It looks like Jackson Jr. had a terrible night. Brandon Clark was okay. We went to the bench again. Bledsoe did not have a very good performance in this one either. But then that being said, neither did Trent Jr. He shot over 3, all from downtown, did not make a single shot. That's the problem we've got though. My one thing that I have with this team is that in an ideal situation, I would really, really love to have a better backup point guard for Peyton and a better backup shooting guard for Trent Jr. Someone who can come in and they can basically just continue the same level of performance. We just don't have that. We have to go to the bench, and we're looking at guys like Bledsoe, White, who are not really the right types of players for how we want to play, in my opinion, at this stage. So we're obviously relying on that. And it looks like Oladipo had a really good night against us here, putting up 18 points, 6 assists, 7 rebounds. Yeah, so Oladipo had a good night. Vucevic had a pretty okay night. Yeah, they kind of got the job done on us on this one. So do we change anything? That is the question. I am tempted to maybe say, Trent Jr., just take a few more minutes for me here and here as well. I think I just want to give you extra couple of minutes. Let's put you down to 17, the sub out. And just give you nice 30 minutes. Let's run our starters a little bit heavier. See if we can get this win on the road to kind of hopefully get the series back in our court. So we go on to game 4. And we managed to get the win. That is a crucial win in this first round. A 9-point win in the end. Yeah, managed to basically turn up the defense on them, holding them to 37% shooting. Trent Jr., 28 minutes he ended up in the end. He doesn't foul a lot, which I really, seriously, must be one of our off-season signings of the season. He makes shots most of the time, doesn't foul out, and just does what you need. He's kind of that glue 3-and-D guy that we need. But in terms of performances, it's clear that Brandon Clark had an amazing night. 27 points, 11 rebounds. Surprising Jackson Jr. struggled a little bit, but that's understandable. I think he is matched up against, I think it's Okaro, who is a really good defender. And he managed to hit them to a bit of foul trouble anyway. So that's a huge, huge win for us. It means that we go back home and we can now have 2 chances to win this series and get it done. Of course, we're going to go and watch the first game. We have to. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm comfortable with how we've been playing. We will go into this game and we'll certainly make it AI controlled. And we will see how we get on. So, in terms of matchups, they clearly haven't changed anything. We haven't really changed much in terms of the starting rotation. But this is how we look. I mean, that Clark-Isaac matchup is just fascinating. 2 kind of guys playing, probably you could argue, out of position. One's a scorer, one's a really good defender. But we'll see how we get on. Can we get the job done at home against this Orlando Magic team? We'll obviously run through a fairly quick pace to begin with. Magic are obviously playing in last chance saloon here. They need to win this game. We have 2 chances being at home to hopefully get this series over the line. And we start off this actual game here. It's pretty much neck and neck. Both teams clearly don't want to lose this one. And both teams come out shooting really, really well this first period. Neither team's playing much defense, to be frank, at this point. But we've taken a little bit of a lead here. A very slender lead of 6 points. It looks like Clark is having a good night, 3 of 6 already. Jackson Jr. is already 5 of 6. So we're getting the job done inside, it looks like, again. Trent Jr. 0 of 2 though. He's having a cold start to this series. I mean, we'll have a little look at him, I think, after. I think he's been a bit hot and cold in this series, if I'm honest. It's just something to keep a little bit of an eye on. I'm guessing he doesn't have much playoff experience at this moment in time. As the Magic peg us back in this second quarter, mainly led by, looks like Gordon, who's 3 of 3 shooting. And Cole Anthony's come in and had to put up some pretty good numbers as well. But we've managed to take a little bit more of a lead here. We are slowing down their offense a little bit more than they are ours at the moment, in this moment in time. Turnovers are pretty much neck and neck. Both teams cannot hit a 3-pointer, it looks like. So it looks like both teams have matched up and recognised that outside of Trent Jr., we don't have much shooting. Outside of probably Oladipo, they don't have much shooting. So both teams are going inside. It's an old school, pound it into the centre and hope to get the 2 points, get the fouls and get the job done. But we've taken a little bit of a lead in this first half as well. I think we're going to go in up by a little bit. That's a good start. Jackson Jr. there's just pinged up that he's hit 20 plus points 45 times this year, and he's put 20 points up in this first half. So good performance, I think, from us. Neither team is basically playing any defense at this point. Our turnovers are slightly higher than theirs, but we are managing to kind of get the job done, I think, with our starters. It looks like Trent Jr.'s had a bit of an off night, 2 of 5, but that's fine. The starters are pretty much playing well. We haven't got any foul trouble, which is good. They're obviously not pressuring us too much on the defensive end. Both, I think, playing a very, very similar defensive style of play, as we are up by 8 at that half. So can we hang on and get the job done here? Get round 1 done, move on to the second round, and worry about who we're going to have to play then. It'd be nice to have those extra days break as well, so we hopefully don't have any injuries. That'd be crucial as well. As you guys know, if you've been following this series along, the regular season, we've had injuries and we've still managed to get through. We've still got 53 wins, so we do have guys who can come in and play, but it certainly does impact our actual performance. But we are up here by 6 points at the moment in this midway through this third quarter. 10 points now. Looks like we're just turning the screw a little bit to get the job done now, as it looks like the Magic just simply can't compete with us inside. Jackson Jr. with 29 points, 32 points now, 11 rebounds. He has had an absolutely phenomenal night. As we wind down this third quarter here, we are up by about 8, and then we're in good shape. So we head into the fourth. We'll see if it gets close, and we'll slow it down if it does. But at this moment in time, we're up by a fair amount now, 10-11 points. Clark is on 23. Jackson Jr., both of those have been leading the line for us on offense this series and in this game. And looks like we are going to come away with a nice 4-1 first round win against the Orlando Magic. It's fair to say that probably Oladipo and Vucevic have had a good night. I mean, Okoro's had a good night as well, actually, in terms of his numbers. But we are pretty much blowing them out the water at this point. Everyone's had a pretty good performance, to be honest with you, apart from Carter Jr. actually. He's only 1 of 4, so he's obviously struggled against Okoro, which is no surprise. He is a phenomenal defender, but we've held them to 41% shooting, and this one is going to be a comfortable win in the books here. We have got the job done in this first round, and we move on to the second round here. Jackson Jr., 36 points, 11 rebounds, a block and 2 steals. That is a tremendous performance. Basically, kind of how we said we thought this series would go. We thought Clark would put up numbers, and we knew Jackson Jr. would put up good numbers against Vucevic, because Vucevic's defense is simply not good enough for a good playoff team. So we've got it done. We've managed to get ourselves through. How is the rest of the playoffs shaking out? That is the question. So the Celtics have blown the 76ers out. I did not expect that. They are 4-0. There's some big questions that need to be asked about that 76ers team now. They have struggled in 2 seasons now with this team. They've got some really good players, but they just haven't been able to translate it into actual performance in the playoffs. The Nets are through against the Wizards. That's probably not a surprise. And then the Bucks Hawks is looking like it's going to go down to the wire. The Bucks are in the lead, which is interesting. The 4 seed are beating the 5 seed there. And then we look at the Western Conference. The Suns are through. The Jazz have smashed the Warriors 4-0. Wow. Okay, the 3rd seed, the Warriors, are out. The Pelicans and the Spurs are tied, and the Mavericks and the Nuggets are tied. So a couple of games are going to go down to the wire. Let's get this Game 5 done in the Western Conference, and this Game 6 done in the Eastern Conference that's left. So I think now that has gone to a Game 7. Wow. And the Pelicans, Spurs and the Mavericks, Nuggets, will any of those go to a 7? Yes. Okay, so the Pelicans, Spurs has gone to a 7. So both 4 and 5 seed games have gone to a Game 7. The Mavs have managed to get themselves through in the end against the Nuggets. The 2 seed are through. So, Hawks against the Bucks. Who's going to go through? It is the Hawks. Oh, that's typical when I said I did not want to play that Hawks team. I just feel their matchup is going to be a bit of a nightmare for us. I'm just genuinely worried about Trae Young. I just think he's going to cause us so many problems. 37 points a game. Yeah, that's going to be a really tough one. I know on paper, I know that looks like an easier game, but we'll talk about it next time. But I'm worried about that Hawks team. I think that is the one chink in our armour, is that type of team if we play against them. So the Spurs Pelicans, let's move on and see who gets through here. And the Pelicans have got the job done. So for those of you who followed in season 1, we completed quite a sizable trade with the Pelicans to send Levine over to the Pelicans. And I kind of said at the time, I didn't think Levine would be part of a good playoff team. But he's proven me wrong, to be honest with you. Him and Williamson and Ingram and co are kind of doing really well at this moment in time. They've got themselves through to the second round. So that means the second round matchups are set. We have the Suns against the Pelicans, the Jazz against the Mavericks, Celtics Nets is going to be a fantastic game to keep an eye on. And then we're, of course, against the Atlanta Hawks. So next time we will come back and we will talk a little bit more about our strategy for this Hawks team. As I've said, I'm a little bit worried about this one. But if we can get ourselves through, we land ourselves back in the Eastern Conference Finals, where we were last season, but this time as a number 1 seed with home court advantage. So that's huge. That is huge for this. I don't think we have any injuries, which is great. So we are healthy. We've got everything going for us this time. We don't have any issues. But interested to know what you guys think against this Atlanta team. Is there anything I should be considering ahead of this matchup? In terms of the insights, anything in terms of the how to stop Trae Young is basically going to be the question. If we can stop Trae Young, we stop this team. But they've also got John Collins as well, who's not exactly a slouch in the scoring department either. We'll come back next time. Second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. We're through. Get good result against the Magic, but we now face another test against this Hawks team. As always, if you're enjoying the episodes, hit the like and subscribe button, and you'll get the episodes as soon as they come out. And I'm always interested to hear your comments about how we should play against some of these matchups. What do you think we should do? I'll have a think. We'll come back next time and we'll see how we get on. Hopefully we can make ourselves an Eastern Conference Finals team once again.